Welcome, everybody, to the August edition of the Bright Start Tennessee Lunch and Learn. Excited to have you all come and join us for this virtual presentation. We've got a great day today, so we'll get through this first little part pretty quickly. I'm Jonathan Schoonover. I serve as the Senior Vice President of Strategic Practice for Tennesseans for Quality Early Education. For those of you that may be new to this area, we are a nonpartisan coalition of advocates for Tennessee's youngest learners. We're really focused on advancing state policies and practices to ensure that all Tennessee children from birth through third grade get the high quality care and early education that they need to power our state's future. Bright Start Tennessee is a network. It's a statewide network of community partnerships. It's really focused on closing achievement and opportunity gaps for children, again, birth through age 8 or birth through third grade. This slide is probably one of the last times you'll see this slide. It's going to be, it's out of date as of right now. So this shows the 6 original communities that have been a part of the Bright Start Tennessee network, the inaugural cohort. It shows kind of where those stars are. We are adding 2 new communities, have signed MOUs with them, and starting at our summit coming up in a month, they're going to start participating with us. We've got the Upper Cumberland and South Central. So 2 new communities there. Excited to have them join us very shortly. For those of you that have been a part of this, you've seen this circle many times, but this is kind of the framework that we use. We know that to get to third grade reading and math proficiency for students, that we really need all of these 3 things working well together. And that's high quality birth through age 8 learning environments. It's physical health, mental health, and development being on track beginning at birth. And it's supported families and communities. And when those things are working well, we know that third grade reading and math kind of fall in line behind that. Further breakdown of that is looking at these 15 measures of success that we have kind of lined out for our Bright Start communities and the framework that we use. Today, we are focused in on a specific practice, specific strategy that Memphis is going to share with us about their work that they've been doing in the shared services model. And that mostly focuses in on this high quality early care and education piece. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring on and spotlight Alicia Norman and our guest, Corey Strong. So Corey is the Director of Partnerships at First State Memphis, and Alicia is the Director of Next Memphis for Porter Leath. So let's see, I think I've got one. Let me highlight, add spotlight here. All right, so I've got the 2 of you spotlighted. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but just wanted to introduce the 2 of you guys. Excited to have you both here. This is kind of the way we've doing this series. It's really a show and tell time for each of our 6 communities to walk through a process or practice that a strategy that they're excited about sharing about. And so when I was talking with Corey a couple months ago, he was like, really what we need to highlight here is Next Memphis and the work that Alicia's doing there. So I'm going to turn it over to the 2 of you, and you guys take it from here.
Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate it. Glad to have the opportunity to present to you guys about the work we're doing here, and also just wanted to thank, Bright Stars for their continued work across the state. You can try to do this by yourself and stress yourself out and go crazy, or you can lead into a collaborative group of people and have kind of a shared experience. And as a military guy, I appreciate having some people in the fight with me across the state, and there's a lot of shared learning that happens. And so I appreciate you and my peers across the state. And looking forward to the 2 new communities as well. So that's great news. So jump right into it, and just most of this is going to be Alicia, but I wanted to give some kind of framework since we're a Bright Start community in TQE. I want to give some framework for kind of how we look at the work that we do. You saw that kind of circle continuum, and we're all kind of approaching it specific to our area. So I want to spotlight kind of how First Aid does it, and then go right into one of the areas that we focus in heavily, in this childcare. So next slide.
Hold on, Corey, it's not moving. I am sharing.
You're definitely sharing.
Sorry, guys, let's try this one more time.
Technology is amazing until it
It is
isn't.
amazing.
Until it isn't, right?
Right. Okay, stay step my screen. Okay. There you go, Corey.
Okay. So early childhood system building organization, we are notionally just trying to put together a system that operates from birth to 8. So that's our name, First 8. And so, multi-sector services, supports, programs, policy. So if you look at that breakdown that Jonathan of those, those 12 or 13 different areas, how do we get a system that is aligned, is tracking all those metrics and moving them forward together? So next slide. And so a little bit about the background of First 8. Seed and Success, our parent organization, through the People First Partnership, put together a leadership council to develop the Shelby County Early Education Plan several years ago, back in 2015. In 2018, there was an opportunity for our city and county to come together and to fund pre-K, some pre-K funding we lost from the federal government. In a pretty historic way, they did. And they were looking for an organization to be the fiscal agent for that. And so Seed and Success and part of our partners said, hey, we have this plan and this organization we think can do it. And so People First Partnership became First 8 Memphis. And although we do as a fiscal agent for about 1,600 seats for pre-K in the city, we are an entire system, early childhood systems building organization. And so the work is still done through that group of people that have created us, leadership council and working groups, which is what I want to kind of hone in. Next slide. So this is kind of new hot off the press. And if you look at our Bright Start document that we submitted on behalf of our organization, this is kind of how we're looking at our work right now. And so just to hone in, if you look at those pillars in the middle, there's 5 of them: home visitation, childcare, pre-K, K through 3, and infant and early childhood mental health. Those are the kind of the primary drivers and functions that we believe the system consists of, and kind of those buckets, right? But if you look at the outside, there's a lot of enablers that also are necessary to make sure that those interactions between a caregiver and a child, or an educator and a child, are effective. And so we are active in a lot of things, and those are all necessary to make sure that we have a functioning system. If you look at the bottom, those are our goals in building the system and the lenses by which we look at our system through, which is quality. We want to make sure that each of these interactions with children are quality. We must make sure there's alignment of people inside of the system, as well as alignment between different parts of the system, right? And so the conversation we've been having, what does it look like, Alicia, if a child care program has some information that they've been collecting through their education kind of interactions with a child, and hands it to a pre-K program and says, here's the child that's showing up to you, to make that interaction deeper. And so we also want to make sure there's access. Memphis demographics, a lot of poverty, predominantly the largest Black city in the country now. And so we want to make sure that there's access as well. And then there's an advocacy and awareness. And if you kind of look at those enablers, a lot of those are aligned to like making sure people know that our system exists. So those are the lenses we look at each of our interactions and try to build that system through. So next slide. We talked about that leadership council. The leadership council has working groups under it. And so you can see from those pillars, each of those pillars has an actual working group. The interesting thing we have done here, and I think this is important to some areas of the state, if you look in the middle, the 0 to 3 working group and the pre-K working groups were working groups that we have created. Also, if you look at infant and early childhood mental health, those working groups that we created to kind of wrap our arms around the work as we did them. But also, if you look at Early Success Coalition Network and Early Literacy Consortium, those are 2 organizations and networks that existed prior to First 8 coming on the scene. And so because this collaborative work is important to use the work that other people and kind of stand on other people's shoulders, we said, hey, why don't we just partner with the work that you're already doing and give you more support to be able to do this work? And in both those instances, the newest one, I think Kelly Spin was on right now, we've been having recent conversations again on how do we support the work that you have ongoing. And so it's not to come in and take over, it's to make sure that everybody's connected. And to the right, you see some of the people that help lead those working groups with us and move this work forward. And so just wanted to kind of give you an idea and understanding of, how we are approaching the work here in Memphis and Shelby County. But next slide, we want to spotlight one very specific organization and some of the work that they're doing to make sure that we can increase both the quality and care, alignment, and access such three are in one shot through shared services with our child care efforts. And so I'm going to pass it to Alicia Norman to talk about the special work that she does.
Thank you so much, Corey and Jonathan and Bright Start Tennessee, for giving us the opportunity to just kind of spotlight what we're doing here in Memphis with Next Memphis today. We are excited to be with you guys, and I will dive right in. So Next Memphis is an innovative shared services model that support community-based child care centers to decrease their costs, increase revenue, and to increase their education quality and their family wraparound service. We are an initiative of Porter Leath. Of course, Porter Leath's mission is to empower children and families to achieve healthy, optimal, and independent lifestyles. We have over 170 plus years of serving children and families in Shelby County. Next Memphis is now able to leverage those Porter Leath best practices in early childhood education, and we are implementing methods that are already tried and true. So we are grateful to just have this strong organization back in the work of Next Memphis. Next Memphis mission is to transform early education in Shelby County by partnering with our community child care programs to make sure that professionals have all of the resources that they need and that families have access to quality child care opportunities no matter where they live, work, or play. Our vision is to create a network of high quality, financially stable childhood programs that can work together to prepare children for success in school and beyond. And I am bringing 25 plus years of early childhood education experience to the table, actually boots on the ground in classrooms, working with directors and teachers. So it is just a privilege to be able to work with all of our providers to help them to achieve their goals. It is also important for us to know our why, and we are more than keenly aware of the challenges that we face here in our community to make sure that every child is ready for kindergarten. We have to drill our purpose and our why down to preparing every child for that kindergarten benchmark and that third grade critical benchmark so that they can be ready for success throughout their K through 12 and college and career. We believe that the solutions begin with early childhood education, and that all of the challenges that many of you are already familiar with. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir today, but you're already familiar with all of the challenges that we face. But if you would just allow me to bore you with those a little bit again today. But our biggest why is community-based partners in classrooms. Oftentimes they do not receive the necessary level of funding, adequate funding to support children based on those additional resources that they need to be successful. We know that we deal with high poverty, stress, trauma, and those impact children. And oftentimes our child care community centers and family day homes do not have the resources that are necessary to move the needle in these spaces. So just some of the challenges that we're facing in Shelby County, again, which all of you guys I'm sure are familiar with, but 45% of our children live in poverty. The Urban Child Institute reported 25% of children in Shelby County have experienced 2 or more ACEs. Pre-K students are expelled at a rate of 3 times K through 12. So we know that there's some work that needs to happen before pre-K. So that we're really pushing into this 0 to 3 space. More than 50% of our students are not ready for kindergarten. 60% of third graders in Tennessee proficient in TCAP. 24% of third grade students proficient in TCAP in Shelby County, and we are all familiar with the risk for retention for our third graders now. And we just can't be okay with this. I know that all of us on this call, we are not okay with this. We know that our children are able to learn, and that's why I am grateful for this platform, for First Day Memphis, for Porter Leath, all of us to create a strong 0 to 8 continuum so that we can help prove that our children can learn. But we keep these whys in front of us every day because it helps to drive the work that we do, and not to quit when it gets tough, because we know that it gets tough in this line of work. So for Next Memphis, our theory of change is to focus on three major pillars of support for child care centers. And that first is strengthening their business, because in order to do the work, they must have a successful business, a sustainable business, so that they can be free to do the work. So we help them to strengthen their business. Then we help them to enhance their education quality. So just bring that quality of education up several notches depending on the particular need of every center. Going into these centers, we see that many of them are different. 20 years at Perea Preschool had my mind thinking that, you know, we're all kind of playing on the field is level. But going into over the last year and a half now into these centers, really seeing, you know, what's taking place. A lot of them need our support to help enhance their quality, and then also to uplift the community. And that is our family wraparound bucket of work that we do. And this kind of, in essence, pushes a very similar Head Start model into these private child care centers, because we know that Head Start model is a successful model. It has all of the components, many components that the child care centers do not have. So Next Memphis is now able to push in and give some of that support. And so we kind of labeled the profit and the promise with our directors during a roundtable, because we definitely want to help them make the profit because they're in business to do that. But we also want to make sure and challenge them that they are delivering the promise. And the promise is for the children, the promise is for the families. You know, we want you to be successful with business, but we also want you to deliver that promise to have every child ready for kindergarten, to have every child prepared for third grade and beyond. And so that is a part of why we do what we do. So I'm going to break down the three pillars of support that we provide for our centers. And that first being strengthening the business. And we strengthen that business through business coaching, okay? Because oftentimes a lot of providers are wearing many, many hats. They are the director, the owner, the accountant, the cook, the teacher, the sub. They have a lot of duties and tasks daily that prevents them from being their best across the board. And so we want to take some of the burden of the business construct of their program and help them to better manage that. So through a business coach, Next Memphis staff provides fiscal coaching based on the Iron Triangle model. The Iron Triangle model is a part of Opportunities Exchange model, which was designed by Louise Stoney. And we look at three major components of the organization: enrollment, cost per child, and expenses and revenue. And we take these buckets and we analyze it for them so that we can coach them based on different and specific areas of their program to help them decrease their costs, increase their income, and thereby increasing their revenue. We do business automation. We provide ProCare for every provider. If they choose to use ProCare, they can use Brightwheel, but our goal is that everybody is automated because it's more efficient, it's more effective, it's more timely, and so they can make better data-driven decisions when that system is automated. We work with our PQI team, our Performance Quality and Improvement team, to do outcomes tracking and analysis. So now these child care centers also have a system, and we'll talk about it a little bit in a minute about the education and the family liaison, but we track even their business data and analyze it to then turn around and give them the coaching. We do HR, IT, and facilities consulting. So we're consulting in this area right now. For the first 3 years, we actually did the work, but we've learned a lot of lessons over the last 3 years. We are fairly a new organization, and everybody knows that shared services and this model, you know, can be costly. So we moved to consulting to help them find those contractors that they need, but also even sharing some of those parts of HR, IT, and facilities across the board to continue to decrease their costs. We have also provided a child care finder website for them, childcaremidsouth.com, so they are visible and people know that they are there and people know how to find them. We do center director mentorship. And we also do Directors Roundtable, which is provides for us to create a community, a space of community, where in this community, we realize that we are not competitors, right? So many times in this business and in other business, you have all of the folks who are doing the work viewing each other as competitors, but we're all on the same team. So we're looking not to compete with each other, but to complement one another and to work with one another to provide services across the board for the families here in Shelby County. And so that is our business coaching. The next bucket of support is our education support, and through our TEP program here at Porter Leath, and through many of, again, a lot of experts who are in the business, we are able to provide a lot of support so that we can make sure that these child care centers are delivering the promise, right? We want them to deliver that promise to children and to those families. So Next Memphis will provide a research-based curriculum. Right now, we are pushing in creative curriculum into every classroom. That is really important to make sure that all of our providers understand that it is important to have that curriculum, whether it's scripted, whether it's teacher-based, but to have a research-based curriculum that connects to pre-K standards, that connects to kindergarten standards, that connects to first, second, and third grade, right? So to have that through line where we are definitely making sure that we are, we can help them with pacing guides, because oftentimes, and I hate to say this, and I want to say it very politically correct, but there are times when I visit centers to see if they would be a good partner for Next Memphis, and unfortunately, a lot of our centers they don't have this kind of support in their program, so it kind of becomes like babysitting or daycare, without a lot of quality. We used to call it high scope, low scope, and no scope, but these are the children that are showing up for kindergarten, and they've been somewhere for 3-4 years, but not in a community or space that had all of these elements to make sure that the children were ready. So we provide the research-based curriculum. We administer to student and teacher assessments. You will see some of those results in just a moment, but these are very important because they need this data to be able to drive their decisions so that they can make the changes in the program related to instruction, parent support, and all of those things. We also deliver practice-based coaching. Based on those teacher assessments, the teachers that kind of show a red flag, our coaches, we have 5 coaches and an education coordinator, they will push into those centers and they do practice-based coaching to make sure that all of our teachers have the tools in their toolbox to be able to instruct the way that they need to instruct. We provide on a larger scale professional development and training that's available to all of our sites. We have a schedule of those for the year, so they're able to opt into those trainings, and we will actually go into the site and do a center-based site professional development training based on the director's request, because the director knows their staff and the students and what they need best. So they're able to tap into their coach. Their coach goes right in and do training there. We also provide CPR certification. We know that teachers have to have CPR certification to get that going, and we really provide that for free. All they have to do is just pay for their card, but we will have probably about 4 sessions of CPR training throughout the year. We administer the class pre-K, and class is a teacher assessment that helps teachers to understand the quality in 3 different buckets that lends itself to enhancing education and enhancing student outcomes. And then we also train with leaner growth. In our family support bucket, Next Memphis staff provides monthly parent meetings. So we push in and we kind of help those providers enhance or create what's already there or not there, but making sure that parents have a voice, that they are a part of what's going on with their child's education, and that they feel that they are a part of a community. The parent liaisons also provide community-wide resources and referrals for parents who show red flags on the FOAs, which we'll talk about that in just a moment. Well, family outcome assessments is where family liaisons sit down with those families and they help them to set a goal, and they meet with them 2 more times in the year to make sure that they are achieving and attaining those goals. And if not, how can we support you to make sure that you attain that goal? Some of them have goals that stretch out over a year. Some of them have goals that stretch out over 2 or 3 years, like achieving my associate's degree. So they're able to push in and provide resources and support to make sure that they are achieving that goal. And then our next level is care coordination. And we were able to, for 3 years through a 2-gen grant, provide crisis intervention, financial, rental, education, transportation, and mental wellness support and resources for our family. I think last year we had approximately, it was either 4 or 6 families that were that moved from homelessness to housed through our care coordination program. And we're very excited about that. Families received free vehicles, vans. So we are really in a very intensive way impacting providers and their children and their families through those 3 buckets and pillars of success. So next, Memphis service overview for school year 22-23. We served 36 community partners. 23 were community-based child care centers, and 13 were family child care centers. We served 1,689 children overall. In all of our sites, this is the number of children that were there. We served 1,326 children that included the students' academics and the assessments, the health assessments. And those are families who opted in to get those services. We want to give parents, again, an option, right? And so we had the majority of our families opted in to get those assessments and health assessments, the academic assessments and health assessments done. And then we also touched 1,291 families with the FOAs and the FPAs. And the FPA is a family partnership agreement, and the FOA is the family outcome assessment, which I'm sure many of you on the call are already familiar with that through our Head Start program. These are just some numbers that dives deeper into that service overview. From October until now, we've had 293 hours of business coaching support. We've supported last year 237 teachers with 4,576 hours of teacher support. 51 teachers were a part of our practice-based coaching, where we did some much more intensive coaching to get the teachers up to that level of where they needed to be, again, just to have those tools in their toolbox to be effective in their teaching. 931 students received educational assessments. You're going to see some of those outcomes in a moment. And 2,332 total assessments were completed across the board. And you'll see 931 students, but they received several assessments. And we'll talk about those shortly. We did 2,758 hearing, vision, and speech assessments. We did 721 family outcome assessments, 698 family partnership agreements, and 84 care coordinator clients were served under our Next Memphis umbrella. So let's talk a little bit about the outcomes. Under business, we were able to, and you'll see the graphs of these in just a moment, so I just kind of go through them quickly and then stop more at the graph. But we saw increases in cost per child, decreases in cost per child, increases in enrollment, and increases in profit margin. And then you're going to see some of the results that we got from our iStation, and also from our LAP-BK, which is a developmental screening and assessment that goes from birth to kindergarten. And then you're going to see some of the family support that we were able to provide. So with and this is going to be under that business bucket, we had a 22.6 decrease in cost per child. So this means that at every month, our providers are going to look at their total costs that it took them to serve their children, and they're going to divide it by the number of children. Our goal is to help them get that number as low as they want it to be, But I think a couple of years ago, the national average was around $900 per child. So we have gotten that, it's lower here, but we do that by helping them to decrease that cost, okay? And then we also pushed in and we helped with enrollment. We had an enrollment team last year that pushed in and did marketing. We did different marketing strategies and skills to make sure that they were attracting families to be a part of their program. So utilization rate here, if you see this, and I want to explain this because, so there are a lot of enrollment numbers. You can have your capacity based on your space, based on your building. You can have your capacity based on your staffing, and you can have your capacity based on just your enrollment and your model. These capacity rates here are based on building, their building size. But after COVID and a lot of things happened, many of us are not operating in that full spectrum, many of them in that full spectrum right now. So when it comes to the staffing and their business model, a lot of our providers were at about 80 to 90% enrollment, but this one is based off of actual capacity of the building. So I wanted to clarify that we kind of changed this a little bit, but in their model for this year, based on their staff, and many of them were at 80 and 90% capacity. And then we were also able to increase their overall profit by decreasing those expenses and improving in their revenue. So just making sure that their bottom line is not in the red, that is in the black, and that is done through a lot of shared services that we provide, things that we push in at no cost. Something that's not captured here, we were able to, the first 3 years, to provide an innovation grant, which was first year $20,000, second year $10,000, and it allowed for them to do some expansion, some upgrading, some remodeling. Many of our folks redid their playgrounds, which was a safety issue. So a lot of good stuff in that business bucket. And now with education outcomes, these are our station results, and we do have the results based on the district and the state average. So these are child care community sites who are now able to perform at a level as the district and the state with the support, right? And we provide this information for them so that they can see what a great job they're doing also. And this is also a part of their marketing. We are using, research-based curriculum. We are using norms reference assessments on the children. So Next Memphis really held its ground, those community partners, based on the state performance and the district performance, with about 66% of our children performing in tier 1, of our kindergartens performing in tier 1 in education. And then we also do our LAP BK, which is that developmental assessment that goes from birth to kindergarten. And we were right at 70% of our students across the board, 6 weeks to 4 years old, performing at or above age appropriateness. And this is really powerful for community child care centers, and for them to see that they are able to do this work. These are some of our family outcomes. So we talked a little bit earlier about the family outcome assessment. Our family liaisons push in, meet with every family, create goals, that family partnership agreement to help parents think about, what do I need for my family to be successful this year? And so there were over 1,720 FOAs completed last year. Now you may say, okay, you only had 1,600, 1,200 families that we helped, but this number indicates the multiple visits with those families, because we would check in with them in the middle of the year and the end of the year. And so we had completed 1,725 FOAs, 76.2% were completed based on our total number that opted in, and 83.2% of them increased in their FOAs, meaning they increased in their goals, they're closer to attaining their goals, and that the needle was moved. And likewise, 722 FPAs, family partnership agreements, were completed. with 79% of our cohort completed, 52.9% of them completed at least one goal. So that is very intensive pushing support for our families. So, and then lastly, I wanted to just kind of highlight a part of our why, right? That TQEE report that came out that showed that we are experiencing a childcare crisis in our state. And we know that, you know, I think the lost amount was $2.6 billion, right? But what stuck out with me with this report, and I love acronyms. So TQEE, if they're on the call, I apologize for taking your acronym. But TQAA is a way for me to really remember that Tennessee parents need quality, where half of them said that quality was a problem. Finding quality was a problem. And then they said they needed access. 2/3 of parents were struggling with access for childcare, and then affordability. 2/3 of parents were struggling with that affordability, and those numbers are there. Many of them, it's just really hard to make those ends meet. So when you think about that TQEE report, think about TQAA, that our parents want quality, access, and affordability. And we are working really hard in the 0 to 3 space here in Shelby County with Porter Leath and Next Memphis and so many other great partners to make sure that we respond to this childcare crisis, because as everyone on this call knows, that we are experiencing a childcare crisis in Tennessee. And then finally, our providers need our help. They cannot do this work alone. I have walked with many of them, sometimes hand in hand. I have a powerful team of folks that really support intensively in the childcare centers. And there's a lot of need there. And we are a big part of the 0 to 8 continuum, but we share that we are a big part of the solution. We've got to push more quality in. It's not good enough for our children just to, and when we go back to access, right, you gain access, and we want to help them to be able to afford it, but we want them to get the quality. And that's what Next Memphis is doing. We are helping push in quality. We only serve 36 centers here now. We're trying to expand the work that we're doing. We know that there are over 400 childcare centers and family day homes, probably tipping more towards 500 in Shelby County. So we really need to think about that, because that's where a lot of, and the majority of our children are going before they hit our pre-K spaces, before they hit our kindergarten spaces. They stop by one of these childcare centers. So they need our help. And let's go Tennessee. I know that we can do it. Any questions?
Wow, that was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Alicia. And no, that is the first time that I've heard the borrowing of the TQAA. So that's, no, I love it. It works so well to help us to remember, you know, looking at quality, affordability, and access as well. So I'm going to take the spotlight off of us for a second so that we can allow people that might want to come on video and ask any questions that you guys have. There's been a couple questions in the chat. It looks like they've been answered as we go, but I'm going to go ahead and remove our spotlights for just a second so that we can see anybody else that might want to come on.
Alicia, you're amazing. I am coming to visit. Like,
please come.
First, I love Memphis. And second, I'm coming to visit because y'all are doing amazing things. I'm so impressed.
Thank you so much. We have a lot of support here. And Karen Harrell has answered some of our questions here. She's our Senior Vice President of Porter Leath, so she will be able to help me answer some of these questions. But Beth, I would love for you to come to Memphis. We actually had the Governor's Early Learning, Early Literacy Foundation here. I think I see, I thought I saw, is she here?
I think
she was here early. She was here early.
Lady Elam was here.
Yep.
And we actually took her to see one of our sites with Dr. Jones at Fingertips. And you just have to come and see the work and hear what's going on in them. So Becky, please come. Did you have a question?
Hey, I do have a question about funding. It looked like y'all had some grants or something to offset costs. What were those grants?
So for the last 3 years, we were funded through philanthropic partnerships here in Shelby County. One of the grants that we did get was a 2-gen grant through the state of Tennessee, and the 2-gen grant helped us to support through their care coordination, where you do that intensive crisis intervention and making sure that those families who were not who were homeless, who didn't have cars, who couldn't pay their rent, so that 2-gen grant helped us to provide support for those families.
We had another question in the chat, and I've dropped 4 links in the chat real quick too, so that you can see them. But if you want to read the chat there, Alicia, we've got 2 questions from Pat. And then I also wanted to point out the 4 things I dropped in the chat, or one was about the two of the links are about the Align Summit that's coming up. If you haven't heard about that, you've either blocked my email or you've been hiding under a rock somewhere, because we've been sending out like way too many emails about that. And the second is about survey link. It takes 60 seconds. If it's longer than that, you're doing something wrong. But love to hear your feedback about how these Bright Start Lunch and Learns help support you. And then the fourth link, the fourth link is about the Bright Start Lunch and Learn registration for September. It's going to be Knoxville, and they're going to talk about community schools and the Knoxville after school area network that they've got going on there. So don't miss those links in the chat. But then Pat, do you want to ask your questions out loud?
Sure. So I'm from the Nashville Public Library, and I'm just curious, how are you partnering with libraries to meet your goals, to reach your goals?
So right now, Pat, not a direct partnership with the library. So we do have a direct partnership with Books from Birth, and we provide support through Books from Birth, trying to get that little green card in everybody's hand to get all of those kids signed up, because having that this is something we did in my previous location. Having that home-based library is really, really important. So our main partnership is with Books from Birth, but that's a good challenge for me to find a way to connect with our libraries to become more of a partnership with them. So I'm jotting that down.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we're with Raising Readers Nashville, and we're trying to find a similar model, and that's why I joined this meeting. And we want my action team is working on connecting families to resources, and we're trying to find a model for families. And that's why my next question comes how do family partnership agreement works? Because that would be something that I would love to copy.
Hey, Alicia, just one quick question for also Pat. So Alicia's obviously kind of our 0 to 3 space. We have a kind of the broader network that we talked about earlier. One of the main ways that we interact with libraries is through our literacy zone effort, which we are piloting right now, which is basically it's a resource saturation and a competency building effort, a place-based effort to focus on literacy in a particular community. And when they do that, they roll out toolkits. They stand up a community council of community members in a particular community, and they roll out toolkits to support both business, nonprofit, family, faith community in setting up kind of those resource areas. Libraries are a big part of that, as well as childcare centers. And so I think we have 3 childcare centers in the Raleigh-Fraser area that the goal is to obviously have them be a part of kind of that broader literacy effort. And so there's just, I think that might be a model be of interest to you. And so I'll connect with you afterwards to see if that might be of value, not just childcare, but kind of the entire 0 to 8 space and lifetime literacy. So I think that might be of interest for you.
Thank you.
And then Ms. Pat, with the family partnership agreement, so it is already, it's a pre-formed document where our family liaisons meet with the families one-on-one, and they go through an agreement that will highlight 7 focuses for their family, right? Goals in health, goals in education, housing goals, financial goals, just, you know, how they need us to support them throughout the year. So it can be, and it's a part of the Head Start model. And I'm sure we probably can share that. Karen is on the call and may know more as to whether or not we can. But it is very intentional towards capturing the goals that the families want to meet, and making sure that they, you know, are able to, with us supporting through community resources to achieve those goals.
Yeah, I would love to see that document. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Well, thank you so much. We are a minute after time. This has been it's one of those, each one of these, I feel like it's like drinking from a fire hydrant, and we just get so much information. The great news is, if you need to, you can always go back and watch the recording of this. We have recorded them all. And it's always fun to listen on at 2 times speed. That's just something fun I like to do. We all sound a little bit like chipmunks at that point. But appreciate all the work that is being done in Memphis. First State Memphis has been a leader in this area for a long time. And it's always amazing to see, you know, when an organization has been around for 170 years, right? There's something to that. So this is certainly legacy to see the work from Porter Leath, and the work that Alicia Norman's been doing with Next Memphis is fantastic. Great partner there, and just so excited to highlight their work this month. Don't forget to sign up for a line if you haven't already. Register with a link in the chat for next month's Lunch and Learn to learn about community schools, and please take the survey. It takes you about 60 seconds. We'll see you guys next month, or actually we'll see you next month in a line. So thank you all. All right, we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks, Jonathan, Corey.